Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to discuss how to defend your financial projections during a pitch. So my name is Nicholas Coriano, went to business school, went to law school. I've developed over 2,000 business plans. I sit on the board of a couple companies, including public companies and private companies. I've helped clients raise money. But more importantly, in this video, we're going to talk about why it's important to defend your financial projections. I think that should go without saying, but needless to say, your financial projections are why the investor, a bank, is going to give you money. So you have to defend these things. Financial projections are not just numbers on a page. They're your business story in numerical form. Investors want to see that your projections are based on solid reasoning and not just optimism. A lot of times there's hubris or too much fluff in a business plan, and people don't, back their numbers up with reality. They just say, oh, we think we can make 50 million. We think we can make 20 million. Well, by the end of this video, I hope you viewers will know how to confidently justify your financial projections to investors or stakeholders. Okay. So investors aren't just looking at your numbers. They're evaluating the logic and assumptions behind them. Okay. So you have to have credibility and realism that align with your business plan. Okay. So you have to understand, this is tip number one, understand your investor's perspective, right? Understand where they're coming from. So the easiest way to understand this is make pretend you're them, right? Make pretend you were the person giving money. What questions would you ask, right? Do they align with your business plan? Do the numbers align with your business plan? If you're saying, you're going to, service 20 million customers, did your marketing plan show how you're going to attract 20 million customers, right? So again, they're not just looking at the numbers, they're looking at how you logically came to the answer behind the numbers, right? Projections need to show a balance between ambition and practicality. The investor's also going to compare your projections to industry benchmarks. So did they pass the test? Right? So these are all ways to get behind, the vantage point of an investor and really understand when you're trying to defend your numbers, you can say, hey, look, this is what our competitors are doing. Hey, this is what the industry's doing. Hey, this is based on something logical, right? We know that there's this many customers. We know that there's this target market in this geography, right? So those are the things that you want to think about first and foremost when you're defending your financial projections, okay? So prepare to defend. My second point is prepare to defend your financial projections, right? So don't just go up there and wing it. You should be practicing your sales pitch, your financial projections pitch, your business plan pitch, your pitch deck pitch, right? Whatever you're presenting, whether it's an executive summary, the financial projections, the business plan, or a pitch deck, do your homework. Know the data cold. Know the assumptions behind every single line item. So if you say, we think that marketing will cost this much, well, then why? Because our competitor paid this much, or because we did a test and we charged this much, right? Always use credible sources, right? So one of the sources I love to use in my business plans and financial projections is the Census Bureau, right? Because I know that that's a pretty credible source. You got it from the government, right? Another great source is other companies' financial statements. So if there's a franchise company that comes to me and says, we're going to set up a franchise and we want to open up 100 locations, then I'm going to go into the financials of McDonald's. I'm going to go into the financials of Wendy's, which are both public companies, and they're going to tell me how much did it cost to set up, how much traffic count were they looking for each location, how much were the margins on their business, how much did they charge for franchise fees, right? These are credible sources. So when you're doing your financial projections, if you use credible sources, then when you're presenting it, it's easier to defend, right? So market research, historical data, industry trends, those are all credible sources that you can get. So when the investor or the audience is trying to poke holes in your financial projections, you can defend it, right? So, and then three, be transparent. Be clearly explain the methodology that you use to create your projections, right? So as long as you can explain to them where you got the source, it usually quails their concerns. So break your projections into smaller components. How did you calculate the revenue, cost, and margins, right? These are things that are important because it makes it easier for the investor or the person listening to you to break down in their head how you came to that, right? If you're projecting growth, explain what will drive the growth, right? Is it marketing campaigns? Is it a new product? Is it a influencer partnership? Is it market demand? Again, always cite credible sources like industry reports, competitor benchmarks, Census Bureau data, financial reports from other public companies, and always have backup documentation ready to support your claims, right? So if they say, where'd you get that data? The Census Bureau. Oh, let me see it. You have the link in the pitch deck. You have the link in the business plan, okay? So the next point I want to cover is how to handle common investor questions. So some of the common investor questions that you're going to get are going to be things like, what assumptions are these numbers based on? Right? So why did you assume this? Or how do you account for risk and uncertainties? Right? Or what happens if revenue is lower than expected? Right? You want to be able to discuss the best case, worst case, and base case, right? The average case for each of these questions. Practice these questions. Make sure you get up in front of somebody that doesn't know you, that doesn't know about your business, and you can sell them, right? So goes back to one of my first points, right? Always practice the pitch, right? Be ready to discuss these assumptions, especially for things like growth rates, pricing, and customer acquisitions costs, right? If you're questioned about risk, show that you've thought about your contingency plan. Show that you thought about things like cost cutting or alternative revenue streams, and have a scenario analysis ready that demonstrate that you prepared for different outcomes. This shows them that, hey, we're not thinking that it's a one-track way, right? Because if you go in there and say, this is how it's going to happen, and then, they say, well, what if this happens? They say, well, that's not going to happen. Well, they're probably going to throw you out of the room, right? So always show the investor or the audience that you've thought of different scenarios. That way it's easier to defend your financial projections, okay? So another way to defend your financial projections is have tools and techniques that strengthen your defense, right? So this includes visuals, comparables, stress tests, right? So visuals like charts and graphs that make your data easier to understand. Comparables that show how your projections stack up against other industry competitors. And then stress tests, explain how you've already tested these projections against potential challenges and show them that, look, we know that it could be different, but we've tested it in our models and we can show you how, even with a little bit of stress, these projections hold up. Okay. The next thing that you should be thinking about to defend your financial projections is use real life examples or case studies. Okay. So I like to start this section by saying, let me share a story with you, right? And then share an example of a startup that worked, right? Or I like this quote too. On the flip side, I've seen businesses lose credibility because they couldn't explain why their costs were unrealistically low, right? Let me explain to you why our costs are this low. And then go on and give a real life example of this. So this can be, a competitor, another private company or public company that has already made this claim and shown it to be true, right? So use things like articles, right, or case studies or public filings are really important. So if you already have traction in your established business and you want to IPO and you're trying to justify a price, well, look at other IPOs. If you're trying to start up a business in a certain geography and there's three other businesses in that same geography that have proved your point, use that as an example. It helps, right, the investor or the audience know, okay, there's something else out there that he's basing this on. Again, going back to basing your assumptions on something. And then the next point is, look, practice makes perfect, right? The more times you iterate your pitch, the better you're going to get at it. So when it comes to defending your financial projections, the number one rule I have is always go out there and start pitching, because eventually what's going to happen is in your first pitch, someone's going to throw something at you that you didn't know. And you're going to go back and you're going to cover that and you're going to have the answer next time, right? And then you're going to pitch again and someone's going to throw something else at you and that you didn't know. And then all of a sudden, you're going to plug that hole. And by the time that, you pitched it 10, 12, 15 times, there is nothing that anyone can say that, can throw you for a loop. So practice in front of colleagues, in front of mentors, in front of your parents. I actually, let me take that back. I don't like practicing in front of family or friends because generally they always have nice things to say, or they're not as, they don't poke as many holes in your business plan. Colleagues, competitors, other people in the industries, mentors are better people, and make sure that they're poking holes in your plan. Make sure that they're asking the hard questions. Make sure that they're saying, hey, I don't believe you because of this. And that way you can practice your rebuttals, because that's what you want to get really good at. Okay. So hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully this helps you defend your financial projections and your business plans in front of investors more often. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, comment underneath if you have any questions or tips for people watching on how you can defend your financial projections. If you need help putting together financial projections or a business plan, please reach out to me. I can always help you guys with that. And remember, defending your financial projections is all about preparation, transparency, and confidence. Okay, so wish you guys the best of luck. Check me out at nicholascoriano.com, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.